I was sleeping on the road, thinking about the 16 days it was going to take me to get where I was going. Decided I was going to visit the next settlement I came across. Should be a good play. See if I could buy some more food. Maybe I wouldn't have to screw around making food when I got there. I got to notice there was some peace talks. Decided to push on. Don't need to be hearing about that. Don't really care. Eventually, I arrived at my destination. Mariscal Mine. Decided to trade with him. I wasn't feeling my best, given that I'd been swilling beers, eating ambrosia. But it was what it was. Debated on buying some fine meals. They're not going to do me too much good though. They had all kinds of stuff they'd buy or sell. I sold mostly ambrosia, keep myself from getting too messed up on the road. Thought about buying some materials, but couldn't really carry much more. They had some crazy futuristic arms. Not much I could do with those. I sold some of my beer as well. I'm sure I was gonna miss doing that, but for now, be alright. Didn't sell any clothes, though I debated that as well. Thought about getting rid of this hauler, but he's too useful. That was about it. I decided to move on. Everybody else around was hostile towards me. Turns out, couldn't stop and visit anybody. I was putting a little kink in my plan. I thought for sure I could stop, purchase some more stuff along the way. Well, it wasn't meant to be. I could go out of my way a bit, hit up another friendly settlement. And in the end, I decided to heck with it. I just kept on pushing through. I had so many animals with me, some of them certainly weren't going to stand up to this cold weather. I was eating ambrosia like nobody's business. But it was what it was. Keeps a guy happy on the road. And I can't complain too much about that since I'm bored out of my mind. Really need to have some fun. Someone told me there was some bandits nearby. They wanted them sacked. I just had too much to risk right now. Decided to keep pushing on. My food wasn't going to last forever. I didn't want to risk running out. So I walked and I slept. Seriously thought about that bandit camp quest. The reward for that was pretty superior, but in the end, I pushed on. At one point, I encountered an angry timber wolf on the road. Fortunately, there was only one of them, not a whole pack. So I just grabbed my gun, started shooting at it when it came around the hill. And it certainly didn't take much to drop that poor thing. He was out of his mind. Maybe he'd gone rabid or something. Who knows? Either way, he went down. I got my people back together here, round up all these darn animals. Wasn't nothing else I could take. Carried on, trying not to waste any additional time. I was still 10.1 days away with only 14 days of food. Something was gonna have to give before too long here. It was about mid-fall, pushing late fall. I was gonna start getting colder than it already was. I was getting worried for some of these animals. But we seemed to be making good progress, despite how crabby I was feeling. Turkey passed away on the 12th of September due to hypothermia. Poor thing. I guess I could have put it out of its misery sooner. But it is what it is. The dogs and the muffalo were doing just fine, so that's alright. The dogs are getting into the ambrosia. That's another reason to sell it. Despite me hiding it in the back of the muffalo, they still dug into it. Muffalo started giving birth like nobody's business. 3 of them right in a row. As winter started, some pirates decided to hit me up. They wanted my coat and my hat and some of my drugs. I decided that wasn't going to happen. These 3 morons only had some kind of swords and clubs and stuff. Wasn't going to take much to deal with them. Crack shot like me with this assault rifle. I just didn't need any of my animals getting injured. I told all them to stay, go hide in the back corner while I go deal with these buttholes. Decided to let the little ones run about, the baby muffalo, see if I could use them as a distraction. Be better than me getting stabbed, that's for sure. I was hallucinating that my gun was flying way around. Turns out, a little bit too much ambrosia isn't good for a fella. So I waited for those guys to come running at me, and come running at me they did. As soon as they were close enough, I got one down right away. Gave him the business. The second one soaked up 3 shots. Down she went as well. I decided I was going to get the last guy just for good measure. And sure enough, down he went. Not sure what those morons were thinking. Didn't seem like that was too wise of a plan to me. And they left a bunch of food. Some medicine even. So a guy can't complain too much about free food. I'm not happy about having to kill those jerks. But it is what it is. The one that survived didn't have any worthwhile gear to speak of. So I wasn't going to try and take it. Just let him lay there. Maybe he'd get up and walk away. Tell people not to mess with me next time. One of them had dropped a decent weapon, but turns out I don't need it. Start gathering all this stuff, word gets around. People think I got something worth stealing. My dog gave birth shortly before I arrived at the new place. Finally, on the 5th of December, I made it to the ship. It was a cold, barren area. Didn't help that it was winter. There was a nice beach nearby, though. Wasn't a lot of buildings around, which was unfortunate. I was hoping to find something I could leverage. Plenty of geothermal, which I could leverage now. I could use it for heat, too, in a pinch. Pretty sparse, there were only a few muffalo around. Not much else to speak of for animals. Not a lot of hills either. Nowhere to build a solid defensive spot. There was some gooseberries about that hadn't died yet. So I'd have to leverage that, I'm sure. Once I started running low on food anyway. Maybe those muffalo would eat them all up though. So I decided to use the only decent structure that was about. I'd have to make a door before too long. The winter was well upon us. It was negative 24 degrees. All the animals passed out in the water for some reason. Not sure why they would do that, but it is what it is. I decided to give them a spot to hang out, which was pretty much anywhere other than where I was going to be living. Mostly because I didn't need their mess in my home. So I got that sorted out. And then after that, told them all to stay there. I was debating on letting the dogs inside, but for now, it's not going to happen. That ship was pretty massive. It's crazy just to find something like that laying there. I had a bunch of stuff I needed to drop before I could go to bed. So I set up a little stockpile spot. Dropped some silver. And I was off to bed despite the negative 32 degree temperature. Some travelers came by. I got a little nervous they were going to see my ship. Try and get violent about it, or maybe hurt one of my animals. Well, they seemed peaceful, so I just let it go. My dogs are sleeping in the water as well. They're going to stink to high heaven come tomorrow. Nothing like a wet dog. I didn't sleep for too long when I finally woke up and built myself a snowman. Laid about watching the sunrise. It was nice not to be on the road after having traveled. I sure wish it was warmer. I guess I could have planned my travels a little bit better. Next up, I had to chop some trees so I could build a door. Make myself a little bit of a home here for the short term. Somebody had some items they wanted me to run over and pick up. I wasn't in the mood though. I didn't need an AI persona core because I'm pretty sure I had one inside this ship over here. So I'm not going to complain about that. I had to chop a bunch of trees, and there was a whole bunch of animals that were going to need to be unloaded. And I was also going to have to find somewhere to put my stuff where it wouldn't get rotten on me. Don't need all this stuff going to waste. So I planned out a little storage shed. There's some steel nearby. I'd probably mine at some point. But we'll see how I fare once I get a little security area planned out here. Had myself a garden tea. I just started unloading animals. I was wired on caffeine. Feeling pretty good. My baby dog's running around. Being cute as only puppies can. Flopping about. So the muffalos started dropping their stuff everywhere. Seemed faster if I just had them shake all the gear off and I'd go around and pick it all up. I was going to run out of storage space perhaps, so I decided to keep the steel, some of the other raw resources outside. No sense hauling all that stuff inside. I'd have to get some power going before too long as well, so I could get my hauler robots set up. And then I started carrying stuff. I was going to need a table before I got too crabby. Get sick of sitting on the ground eating after a while. I was having myself a beer, just chilling out, before it was back to work, business as usual. Fortunately, I had a fair amount of pemmican. All these animals are holding so much stuff. It was going to take me a little while to get them all unloaded. It was funny watching them shake all the gear off. It was going everywhere. I wasn't worried about something getting damaged because I had so much stuff. If I ever make it back to Earth, I'm going to take up a minimalist lifestyle. I don't need to be hoarding all this crap all the time. I really needed to get my door put in before I wanted to go to bed. That was going to be a priority. And it didn't take long once I found out which muffalo had the wood on it. So I built my walls. Built my doors. Got all the muffalo to shake off their gear. Turns out I brought a decent amount of wood, and that was going to be useful. I found my horseshoe pin. That was also going to be useful. A guy like me likes to toss horseshoes. That's for darn sure. I just made my barn. Big old storage space. Fortunately, a bunch of the muffalo had dropped stuff right there. Transport pod crashed nearby at that point. McKinney was her name. I decided I was just going to let her lay, despite she had some decent gear. She wasn't hostile, and she might just get up and wander off on her own, which would be just fine with me. I needed to keep the animals out of my storage room so they didn't eat all my pemmican. I was going to allow the dogs in there for now, though. And in my room, despite the mess. And they're going to have something to eat. I suspect these muffalo weren't going to last too long without any food, being that it was the dead of winter up here in the Arctic North. That's going to pose a real problem. Well, eventually I got everything carried in. Had myself a coffee and some pemmican. I had the steel to run some power lines over from that ship, so I was going to end up having to do that. Works out pretty well. Don't have to start building some kind of power structure right away. I could just pull power right off that reactor. And with that, I could get my lights going, some heat going, get my hauler robot set up. Some girl named Gina showed up about that time. 57 years old, didn't do much of anything. She must have got wind of the ship being around here. I decided I wasn't going to ask her for anything, but I certainly wasn't going to let her hang out. So I sent her packing. And I was a little crabby. Would have been nice to have somebody to chat with for a day or two. But in the end, I let her go. When I woke up, I had planned a table and a stool, somewhere to sit and eat. Started working on my power lines right away. Feel like I'm only inviting the fires with all this wooden structure. But desperate times call for desperate measures, I suppose. I got most of the power lines built. Decided the coffee was definitely in order. I brought a good amount of steel, good amount of wood, so that worked out. All the animals are following me around. They're hungry as it gets. A bunch of uranium fell out of the sky at that point. I was hesitant to pick it up with my bare hands, but since I didn't have any radioactive suits, I had to do what I had to do. Hauled that in, had a beer to make myself feel better, and built my table, chair, and a light. Decided to do some cleaning in my bedroom. A little bit too messy for my taste already, although them dogs coming through aren't going to help anything. I got the hauler robot fired up, and he went right to work, so that was good. There was rock chunks everywhere, some of which I was going to need. I was going to have to build a ton of granite walls around here, if I could find some granite. I'd plan that out later on, though. For now, thinking about how to deal with all these animals. I was debating. I think I was going to put Hamlet and Convict right into one of these immediately, lest they get hurt. I'm not terribly attached to Convict, but I am pretty attached to Hamlet yet. So if he passed away, I don't know what I'd do. I was feeling extremely wealthy for some reason. Somebody contacted me about some prisoner being trapped somewhere. Me and the dogs were all hauling blocks around, and I decided I better find something else to do. So I was going to go ahead, put both the adult dogs inside some of those crypto sleep caskets. I wouldn't have to worry about them after that. They're both anesthetized. Turns out you can't put them in there if they aren't. They kick and scream and fight you. Don't want to go to bed, destroy the whole pod from the inside. So, Hamlet went in first. Good boy that he was. Rest well, old friend. We will meet again someday. Hopefully in a happier place. Then I got to the business putting his little friend Convict in there as well. And both the dogs are safe and sound. With the puppies, not sure what I'm going to do with them. Probably going to try and find somebody to buy them. Hamlet and Convict can have a legacy here. I was going to deconstruct a whole bunch of them sleeping pods. Seems to me probably some good materials there I can use for whatever I want. I'm going to keep a few extra in case stuff gets crazy and some of them get destroyed. I was sitting there chilling out, having a beer. Nice warm feeling settled over me. Feel like Hamlet was safe, and that was a good thing. Muffalo milling about. Big herd of those things. Some visitors showed up about that time with some stuff to trade. I was hoping they'd want to buy some puppies. I deconstructed 3 of those crypto sleep caskets and got what I could hauled in. Those visitors are slowly making their way over. I laid down to sleep. Dogs are laying next to me. Those cute little puppies. I decided I was going to have to run out and trade with these guys sooner than I like to. They weren't staying too long due to the extreme cold. But I was able to catch up with them and have a little conversation. They had some pemmican, so I bought that. I didn't want any more herbal meds. Didn't want to sell any of my stuff. Not the stuff they wanted to buy anyway, sadly. I would have gave them a dog if they would have asked. I hauled that pemmican in. I went and started deconstructing them crypto sleep caskets again. And that's what it worked on. Materials coming out of them are pretty solid. Uranium, steel, components, and advanced components. A guy can't complain too much about that. So I hauled the components on inside, since they're the ones that are gonna rot on me. A little bit of the steel as well. And then I was off to bed despite it only being 9 a.m. Those visitors really mucked up my sleep patterns. I had dogs walking over me in my sleep. When I got up, a little bit of cleaning was in order. After that, I got to deconstructing the last couple crypto sleep caskets. Stopping for some pemmican in between them. Maybe I deconstruct another one later, but we'll see. There was some granite floors under that ship, so I peeled all that up as well. Decided I was going to have to run around, see what kind of supplies I could grab from the surrounding territory if I start deconstructing all the walls that were about. And there were quite a few of them. So I got to the business of planning that out. After that, I could peel up the floors that were under these old structures. I'm sure it'd be good for something. Sadly, it wasn't as many structures as I would have liked. But, well, I have to make do. I made a note, all these floors are going to have to come up once I was done with the walls. And I got what I could rip down before I got too tired, headed off to bed. It was right cold, man. Negative 37 degrees. Turns out, that woman that fell out of the sky didn't make it. I saw her laying there dead. I felt a little bad, knowing I could have corrected it. But in the end, it wasn't my job. Whatever she did to get here, maybe as bad as what I did to get here in the first place. So I ran around, working on pulling down these buildings everywhere. One of my muffalo miscarried at that point due to starvation. I decided it was time to put all these muffalo down. Every one of them was hungry. There was no food. I certainly wasn't going to let them get into my pemmican. My rat went down as well. It was starving. So I decided I was going to put him down as well. About that time, a snow hare self-tame. That guy's going to have to get put down as well. Turns out, there was a whole lot of muffalo. This is going to be grisly work. I can tell you that. Fortunately, it was cold enough. All these bodies of freeze. So that was good. And my hauling robot could help me carrying all the bodies around when I got to the business of slaughtering them all. I'm going to have to kill them now before they get too skinny. Nothing but skin and bones and fur at that point. So I committed to it. Had myself some pemmican. And then I got to the business of killing muffalo. They served me very dutifully. But this is a better fate than starving to death. Being that it was still midwinter, far northern climate, it's gonna be a while before there was any natural food. I killed a bunch of them. I got to feeling pretty terrible. Sat there and tossed some horseshoes, trying to take my mind off the horror of what I was doing. Poor guys. I've been training them for years, probably. Some of them anyway. And after that, I got back to the business of ripping these walls down. I couldn't bear to watch that hauling robot bringing all them muffalo in that I'd killed. There are buildings all over the place. The far end, of course, I was going to have to run about. I decided to let most of it lay. That hauling robot could take care of it for me. Wasn't going to be terribly fast. He was still hauling blocks around, but he'd get there. I was a little worried about security as well. That colonist I had banished away. Turns out she must have died. I planned out a nice little secure area with a kill box, proper base, security, power, you name it. Trying to keep that ship safe. So once I got enough blocks about, that's going to be what I worked on next. First, I was going to have to generate a bunch of supplies. There was an Aurora on, but it didn't seem to last too long. I was doing pretty decent for food now that the animals weren't eating it. I was going to need a second heater in my room. The one I had wasn't doing a good enough job, it turns out. And then I was back to ripping up floors, which I did well enough. There was only a few structures left. Occasionally I'd take a break, go have a beer and chill out a bit. Despite how far of a walk it was, it still seemed worthwhile to me. My parka and hat, super warm. I wasn't feeling the cold at all, so that was good. And all the muffalo I killed weren't rotten, so that also was good. So I ripped down walls as fast as I could. Planned on coming back for the floors later. And it wouldn't be long before I had them all taken care of. At that point, maybe I could start building the final structure I was going to need. Just me all on my own. I don't know what kind of chaos is going to go down. Rumor has it, things get nutty. You start one of these ships up. I didn't want to be caught out. I was off to bed. It was about 11 o'clock. My second heater was doing a fine job, keeping the room warm finally. It was a mess around here, but I didn't seem to mind too much. Somebody contacted me saying they were being chased by a whole slew of people. I had no choice but to ignore that message. And then I went out, started working on the last building. Got it all ripped down. That just leaves the floors, which will go a lot faster. I was tossing some horseshoes, debating on how I needed a meal source around here. But all those muffalo should do me just fine. I'd like to get rid of these puppies before they eat any more food. I'm not sure I could bring myself to put them down though. But there's caribou about, occasionally muffalo. Being that those puppies, Hamlet's little babies, I didn't want to see anything bad happen to them. I should probably put them in a casket and take them with us, but the way those dogs have babies, it won't be long before there's more. So I wasn't too worried about that. Meteorite fell down. Pure uranium. Madness. Tell you what, that's going to be useful. I can make some fancy old gun turrets out of that. I was working on ripping up floors, getting some supplies carried around, telling that hauling robot to get stuff moved as well. It wouldn't be long. I'd be right ready to get going on this. Hopefully nobody showed up and killed me before it happened. So far it was going just fine though. Didn't have any worries. It's going to be quite the area I was going to work on, so it was going to take a few days, maybe a few weeks. Not sure what I was going to do for food. If I could get a freezer put in, all these muffalo keep me in meals for a long time. I was chilling out, just watching the sky, contemplating how much work was ahead of me. But feeling good. I'd finally made it here. Finally get off this terrible planet. Wasn't many floors to rip up anymore either, so I gone corner to corner anywhere nearby the ship, seeing if I could get all this stuff taken care of, gather as much supplies as I could. One of them big freaky thrumbos showed up about that time. I like to tame them. They seem like they're big friendly guys, but they also get mad real easy, and when they get mad they beat the crap out of stuff. So I decided just to leave them alone. If a bunch of jerks show up and try and attack me, I'll go ahead and shoot him a few times. Maybe he'll go kill them for me. And hopefully they finish him off or get him close. That plan can always backfire. I was chilling out, having a beer, thinking about what a pigsty my house was. Also thinking about the last of them floors that needed to be ripped up. which I got to doing before too long. I should have a fair amount of blocks after all this was said and done. It's certainly not enough to build what I was going to need to build. But I'd gotten some good supplies out of it, so I wasn't going to complain too much. I was still finishing up the floor ripping up. There's literally just a few left here, and I'd have to see about getting all this stuff hauled. And there were blocks laying all over the place. Hopefully that hauling robot can get busy on that. Looked like he was still setting up granite chunks for me to break down. Probably not the best use of its time. About that time a lynx started hunting one of my puppies. And I thought about just letting it go, but once again, those are Hamlet's babies, so I better stick up for them. So I grabbed my gun. I couldn't leave that lynx around. Turns out he was hunting after me as soon as he caught wind of me. So he got the business, one bullet at a time, and that was that. Down he went, soon to become food, like the rest of these critters around here. So I had quite the enterprise planned, and there was still a ton of blocks to get picked up. Decided I was going to stop hauling these stone blocks. Start hauling the ones that were already made. The chunks could wait. Once I started breaking them down, I could get some idea of how many I was going to need. So eventually, I got to picking up the actual stone blocks, putting them over where they needed to be. I was fortunate nobody showed up trying to kill me yet. Once they catch wind of this ship, just be a matter of time. There was steel laying around from the walls. All kinds of different stone blocks. That poor dead woman laying there frozen, eyeballs wide open, freaking me out every time I went over there. Decided I was going to have myself a garden coffee. And a little bit of pemmican to boot. Wouldn't be a bad play. I was going to reinstall that hauling robot somewhere else. I didn't like how fancy my bedroom was. He seemed to be making me think it was a little fancier than I thought it should be. So I'd get it moved. Maybe change my attitude on the bedroom a bit. And with that, I laid down for another day. It had been a heck of a journey. I'd finally made it. The spaceship was mine. I just had to find a way to defend it against all the jerks that were going to come. It was a pretty barren, cold landscape, but I think I can make do. Thrumbo was still hanging out. Still a bunch of blocks to carry, but it was high time I got to building this here new building I was going to need. The old bunker is going to get put in place. See if I can survive long enough to get off this rock.